look and listen behind Citadel Athletics. Beyond the Barracks is presented by Cutwater Spirits. Now let's go live to the voice of the Citadel, Brian Giffen.
It is Beyond the Barracks. Yep, it's Monday night again. Brian Giffen with Coach Drayton, and we're thrilled to have all of you with us, whether you're joining us via the video medium, whether you're on site here at Over the Horizon Brewing, or whether you're with us on radio. Hey, however you're joining us, we're glad to have you as we move in now to Week 8 of the football season here in 2024. And, Coach, good to be with you as always. Obviously, we both had a couple of days. I was texting with Lee earlier, so three of us have had kind of a couple of days to shake some of this off. There were kind of a mixed message type of game. For one thing, you go over there, you really play them. You fall in a hole, first off, but there's no quit. You guys battle your way back into the game, all of that, but struggled to convert some opportunities, obviously, in the game. 2 interceptions in their end of the field, a couple missed field goals, and in the end, it's too good a football team you're taking on at home there to overcome some of that stuff.
No, you're absolutely right. And before we dive into it, we want to give our heartfelt sympathy out to the Dave Orr's family. He was the director of Environment and Health and Safety at the Citadel and an avid supporter of all things Bulldogs. So our hearts go out to the family. But to answer your question, you're exactly right. If I jumped into the stats and I said one team rushed for 274 yards, another team only rushed for 102. That same team had 429 yards total offense when the other team had 396. Offensive plays, the Citadel had 77, Western Carolina 74, and penalties. We only had 4 penalties. They had 8 penalties. Average yards per punt was 41 for us, 25 for them. And last but not least, the time of possession. We had the ball for 33 minutes.
Right.
They had it for 27 minutes. Statistically, teams who win in those categories win the football game. But to your point, what you said in your opening comments, on 4th down conversions, we went 1 of 2. They went 2 for 3. Red zone scores. We only scored 1 time in the red zone, and they were 5 for 5. And then field goals. We went 0 for 2. That can't happen with us. Not a Maurice, Drayton, Tony Coaxum, coach special teams. We went 0 for 2. They went 1 for 1, and then we had the 2 interceptions. So that will get you beat each time.
Honestly, and every kicker is going to miss his share, be they short, be they long, whatever. But there's also that old saying, if you have to settle for field goals, you better darn sure make them, too.
No, you're right. And I apologize to the team. On that short field goal, that was a miss. We have a lefty. And where that ball was placed on the hash, that is a very tough angle. As a coach, I need to take a delay of game, back him up 5 yards, and now it makes the angle a little bit easier for him to make. So that's on me. But now he has a burden that he has to wear too. Obviously, if we put him out there, it's because we have confidence that he can make it. But I have to help him help himself, and that's with our team in general.
You and Lee talked about this. Lee certainly, and I talked about this in the booth. The speed of the game thing was a challenge early in the game, but you adjusted as you went on. But it also helped them kind of sprint out to the quick start too.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed in that. We knew they were a fast team, and we knew we had to start fast. We practice fast this week, and then on game day we played a little careful early on. I used the analogy, I can't remember if it was you and I talking, it's sort of like getting in a fight with your brother.
Right.
You know where your brother's threshold is. You kind of, there's some parameters there.
Right.
But when you have to go out on the street and slug somebody else, we were a little hesitant, and that's where we got to get our guys to get more confidence to come out the blocks running and gunning.
This is Beyond the Barracks, presented by Cutwater Spirits. We're live at Over the Horizon Brewing, as we are just about every Monday during football season. It's great to have all you with us again, whichever medium you're joining us via. We're glad to have you. Hey, your quarterback's running the ball. This has been more of a staple the last couple of games, and between Dustin, who came in and very admirable job filling in when you got him some opportunities in the game. And then, JB, your quarterbacks have really carried the load for you guys in the rushing game the last 2 weeks. And on top of that, you've put up better yards rushing per game since that's happened too.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's by design. Offensively, we develop schemes each week based upon what the defense is giving us. So the last 2 weeks, they haven't been watching basically the quarterback run, so we've designed plays specific for our quarterbacks. JB did a fabulous job in matriculating the ball down the field.
You sound like Hank Stram.
Oh, man. I'm old. I just love football.
Right.
I study those guys. And Dustin did a fabulous job, and it was by design. No, JB's not getting benched. We made a conscious decision early in the week. We wanted to play Dustin some. Why? I'm going to tell you why. Because we're not just building a season.
Right.
We're building a program. So we want to get some of these other guys meaningful reps in meaningful games as we try to build this program from the ground up.
Depending on circumstance, is there a scenario, maybe once you get past this VMI game, where you might get Kobe some snaps also? I mean, looking ahead, of course, and that's a tough thing to do in the business we're in, and we'll let rosters change. But when you look at it, Dustin, at least as it looks right now, would be the guy, certainly the favorite as you go into off-season drills when we get that far. But, you've also got a really bright young talent in Kobe, and with the red shirt rules the way they are, the 4 games, all that stuff, it might give you an opportunity to at least get a look at him, depending on how the games go.
Well, that's part of the plan. So you must have been hanging out in my office today. That's one of the things we talked about. We went through all of our freshmen, those who are physically ready to play first, right? Because we're not going to put anyone on the field and put them in harm's way. So if they're physically ready, if they're mentally ready, emotionally ready, we're going to look at some of these freshmen and see what they can do in a meaningful game.
I'm looking at my schedule of stuff here. I want to point out that Joe Jackson's already in the house, your cornerbacks coach.
Yes.
He'll come up and spend some time with us in a little bit. Also, Greg Dixon. We'll talk about defensive line play in a little bit. But as we continue along right here, how do you feel like, it's a tough thing because it's almost more of a mental or a psychological thing. How do you address the fast start thing? And there's the old saying that, good play hard, but play smart too. And good football is smart football.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct. One of the ways we're going to address the start fast and to throw the first punch is basically as soon as we get to the field, after we do our walkthroughs, after we do our flex, which is our stretch, we're going to jump right into live segments, all right? And there will be a winner, there'll be a loser.
Yeah.
And the side that loses, they're going to have to pay the bank, whether the bank is push-ups, whether the bank is extra running. But there's going to be a consequence for that. But we're going to start fast at practice to try to get that to happen in the game.
Defensively, they did get on track pretty quickly, but all day long, and we were kind of saying this they kind of screened you to death. Everything was underneath, and yards after the catch were a big stat in this game.
Yeah, so if you remember when I was talking about keys to victory last week,
right?
One, it was to play a boring brand of football, right? And quarterback run, we just use time off the clock. But defensively, one of our one of the things we wanted to accomplish was don't get beat deep, because this guy, Cole Gonzalez, can throw the ball vertically. They had good receivers. So we played coverages where we took the top out and we wanted to rally down to the ball and get the tackle. The problem that got us wasn't the catch. It was the catch and the run.
Right. Well, when you look back over this game, and again, we're digging up some of the things that were positive, and there really were a lot of them. Yeah, it's a disappointing day, and the reason it's disappointing is you knew you were right there and you had a shot, but you block another punt. You've now had impactful special teams plays in basically all 7 games.
Yes.
As an old special teams guy, that's got to make you pretty happy.
Absolutely. That's the standard. That's why I'm so disappointed with those 2 missed field goal opportunities. And like I said, one of them I'm putting it on myself. But that is the standard for special teams, and we expect for that to continue. We will be the best special teams unit in every game we have a contest.
You've said this, and we all have. I mean, there really are no such thing as moral victories. But to that end, as these games have gotten away, how do you keep the confidence and keep the spirits up and all that? Because it really, in the end, comes down. It isn't about who you're playing; it's back to how you're playing. Absolutely
right. Our young men are very resolute. I mean, they stand upright and circumspect. Today's athlete, they really do have a short memory.
Right.
My coaching staff and our trainers, Andy Clausen, I had to get him up after the Furman loss and then this loss. Like, we had to rally around each other and get ourselves together. But the players, they bounce back pretty quick. And so that's a good thing. From that standpoint.
And there's so many things you can look at and, hey, look, we fixed this tweak, we fixed that thing here, there. That's the beauty of being in all these games. You're close. You just got to find a way to make the plays and close the deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I will say this. Part of it, too, is these players are conditioned, all right? If they play good, it's, hey, you play good. It doesn't matter whether you win or lose. We have to eradicate that part of it, all right? They're hearing that too much. So if you're out there in the airways, don't tell them, hey, you play good. That's all right. It doesn't matter whether you win or lose. It does matter, right? So we have to get that behind us. Our goal, our objective is to win. I believe it was the old New York Jets coach, Herm Edwards. Yep. He said, you play to win the game.
Yeah, he had some great quotes. Actually, it was, if you're old enough to remember, he was a really good player.
He really was for the Eagles.
Yeah, but a lot of them out there are not. So it's VMI week. Let me toss this out there. We've got a couple of tickets, courtesy of Jay Sullivan over here, for the homecoming game on the 9th against Chattanooga at Johnson Haygood Stadium. These are good seats, again, like they always are. And we've got these to give away. And Jay also gave me a question. We'll see.
Okay.
So essentially, the VMI and the Citadel, talk about this week's game, are two of these senior military colleges.
Correct.
There are 5.
Yes.
Now, not counting the academies, Army, Navy, Air Force, those are academies.
I think it's 6.
There's 6. Okay, yeah. See, look at you, man. You already know where I'm going with this. So to get these tickets, we need to know the other 4. And now that he's told me that there's 6, I don't know who the heck the 4th one is.
Well, I think we got you covered.
All right. So, yeah, if you got that answer and you're here on hand, come give us the answer. We've got these tickets to the Citadel Chattanooga game, and that is on November the 9th. Here they are. Not kidding you, right here in my hand. But so it is VMI week. You and I will get a little more into VMI in a little bit. Obviously, the Silver Shako needs to come home.
Yes.
And the tough game last year, one they kind of got out of town with. Nobody, including me, in my first ever encounter between these two, particularly enjoyed watching them celebrate. So I'm ready to go up there and celebrate at their place.
Well, I tell you what, that is the plan. Our strength coach, Joe Varga, he has talked about this game since last year on Sunday after the game. He's fired up, and he reminds our young men every chance he gets how they celebrated on our field. I can't wait to see what happens. I'm very excited about it.
This is Beyond the Barracks, and we're coming your way live from Over the Horizon Brewing here at 2200 Harriet Street, not too far from the Citadel, right here on the edge of downtown, right by I-26. Really, you come up to the end of Rutledge like you're going to get on 26, take that last left, and we're right here. Pop in and hang out with us while we do Beyond the Barracks, and stick around. Now, before we go away, you've got that can up there, and for the audience on hand and on video, tell them about this can.
Absolutely. So the owners here are big Bulldog supporters and alumnus, and they wanted to give back to our school. So for every can sold at the football games, $1 will go back directly into our program. So get you a Moe's Ginger Ale. Also coming will be Ed's Triple Double. Now, Ed gives me a hard time because his has higher content. I just want ginger ale.
Right.
That's all.
Does he get into the mine's better than yours thing? Is that a little competition?
Every time he sees me, he lets me know that.
Well, we will come back and we'll talk defensive line. Greg Dixon is here, and the Dogs' defensive line continues to play pretty well. That depth has really been a strength for the Citadel this year, and that's been a big part of what's kept you in these games. We'll talk with Greg Dixon in a few moments. Right here, we'll step aside and take a timeout. This is Beyond the Barracks. We take a look and a listen inside Citadel Athletics. I'm Brian Giffen. He's Maurice Drayton, and we're thrilled to be with all of you as we bring you this live like every Monday from Over the Horizon Brewing. Back with more after this on the Citadel Bulldogs Radio Network. Citadel Athletics, for that matter, as the Dogs get ready for the annual huge tilt against VMI. This year it's a road game. We'll get into that in a little bit. Right here, though, we're going to visit with Greg Dixon, who is one of the D-line coaches at the Citadel and obviously an alum. You got a master's from the Citadel in 2018, but you joined the coaching staff back here in the spring. As we were just talking about during the break, you played at Thomas More College, and you've done some coaching, but you've done some other interesting stuff in between your football on that end and your football on this end. Tell us about that.
Yes, sir. Definitely in a kind of a career transition at this point in my life. Kind of happy to come out of the old world I was at, working for the U.S. government and some of the private sector companies that support family offices in high threat areas and whatnot.
Right.
And so, after my wife and I had our second daughter, decided it was time for more of a stable change. I don't know if coaching was the right move for that, but I definitely know I ended up at the right place.
It's funny how, and at the collegiate level in particular, so you left the sport in 2010. So here we sit 14 years later, but the game is eons different than it was back when you were in it before all this too.
Yes, sir. There's definitely a lot of change over the years, but the student athlete still remains the same.
Right.
If anything, I can kind of give credit to these kids. Their dedication and ability to kind of focus on what their goals are as student athletes are much higher than mine were with the ambition that I had when I was at that age. So I give a lot of credit to those young men.
A couple of the stops in your career. Well, first of all, you were in the Marine Corps for several years, and obviously you spent several years, 3 years, I think, in Afghanistan too, working in security. And those are some pretty interesting things the average person on the street maybe wouldn't gain or wouldn't understand that much of what that's like. Can you share some of that?
Absolutely. I mean, the Marine Corps itself is a hodgepodge of individuals from different cultures, backgrounds, religions, races, socioeconomic digs. So that alone just puts you in an environment that would make you naturally feel uncomfortable just being there. So as far as learning, how to interact around different kind of humans, different kind of people, and then, and even some of the stuff in Afghanistan on the professional side, understanding what it takes to be a professional at what you're doing and what's required of you, the amount of preparation that goes into it, and ultimately learning how to kind of lead men in austere environments.
You've got to be a tough-minded individual, and obviously, most of us have been pretty privileged in life that we've never really been in a circumstance where the threat level is so much higher and there's so much instability like there is in certain parts of the world. That's got to be a head on a swivel, kind of a thing that you get accustomed to in life where you get to relax a little bit, but you also kind of always have your eyes on your six and keeping an eye on what's going on.
Absolutely. We kind of color code it, right? So if you're the yellow, that's just more of a kind of like you're at a red light. Am I going to get through the red light or am I going to stop at the red light? But when it's red, when you're in red, you got to be on your P's and Q's and minding your business and getting your work done. Otherwise, it could be a fatal consequence if you're not don't have that attention to detail.
Let's talk a little bit about your working with Coach Piniella now. I mean, so the defensive line, this is a rare luxury that you guys actually have depth at three across for the most part, and that served you pretty well. In fact, this last game, you did outgain them, but they did get their yards, and they obviously gave you guys trouble from the standpoint of yards after catching the screen game. But by and large, that much larger offensive line, you guys struggled to get some of the pressure you've gotten in other games, but they didn't just run over you either.
No, not at all. I mean, our kids, I think, had no intimidation factor towards that whatsoever. It's something that Coach Pinella's gotten these guys ready to see every week, week in and week out, is that we are going to be undersized up front almost all the time. And so he has them prepared that way mentally, and that starts with him in the spring and the offseason, getting these guys kind of understanding what they're going up against. He has incredible amount of experience, almost 30 years of coaching. I've known about Coach Piniella long before I came to the Citadel and been kind of following his career. So, he does a great job kind of getting those guys' minds ready for that.
I've had both offensive and defensive line coaches over the years that a word that they've used to describe their favorite kind of guys is nastiness. A guy that is a really good player, a guy that generally is a clean player, but a guy that's got a little bit of an edge too that, hey, I want to not just beat my man, I want to destroy my man.
Absolutely. I mean, in the trenches, that's what it's all about. That can be the deciding factor for, how you play against them or not. And that's what our guys do day in and day out in practice, and then it shows up on Saturdays.
you guys have gotten good play, and this is a developing, which is a rarity now, but it's a developing type of program where we see the same guys out there, many of them, most of them, that we saw a year ago. But they've obviously grown up some, they've gotten larger, they're playing better, and they've put you guys in a much better competitive situation than you were last year. With military, I think football maybe more so than any sport. There are some comparisons in terms of the camaraderie. You just mentioned the trenches, kind of that go to battle with your guys thing. And I've always really enjoyed working with coaches that had some level of military background. Of course, as a military brat, growing up on Army posts, living in Germany, and our coaches were all military guys.
That's right. I think there's so many parallels between the two, just of what it requires, being a physically fit person, coming out day in and day out and learning how to compete and learning how to better yourself and having that ambition. So for those that are interested in going the military route, that want to play football, schools like the Citadel are perfect for you because you can come here and kind of get an understanding of what that would look like and then how that will transfer to in between the lines.
And I think one of the things that's instilled from that culture is, first of all, play smart, but also that mentally tough aspect, and honestly, the comparisons kind of go on and on. Yeah, they're not the same, but fall camp, for instance, training camp, whatever you want to call it, is kind of the football equivalent of boot camp, although it's not nearly as tough now as it used to be.
Yeah, the learning how to deal with the adversities, the mental toughness,
right.
That's something you don't even enter boot camp at Parris Island with mental toughness. Mental toughness is something that's developed
right.
and learned through experience, through adversity. Coach Drayton did a great job this fall of getting our guys mentally prepared for what they're going to see right now, and that just trickles down through the whole staff to the players.
What guys are your vocal leaders on that D front?
Our vocal leader, I think, is Chris Iverson. He's somebody that I've observed time and time again, is somebody up front that has that ability. And then we got non-vocal leaders, too. Jordan Marks is a guy that you don't hear talking a whole lot.
Right.
But you watch his play, and it's like this is what it's required. He's a guy that has really turned his career around at the Citadel since he's been there. And so, I give Jordan and Chris a lot of credit for that.
Well, this is your first year coaching at the Citadel, obviously a master's degree from the Citadel, but this is your first on the coaching staff Citadel VMI game for the Silver Shako. Can you describe a little bit of what this week is like and how it might differ from some of the others?
Absolutely. I served in the Marine Corps with a lieutenant from the Citadel who was actually killed in action in 2005. His name's Omar Fitzgerald. And I had a great relationship with Omar prior to his death, and he would tell me a lot about this school and what this game meant, the VMI game, and how important it was, and the atmosphere that would be shown up at the stadium. And so for him and for the alumni and for the student body, everybody's going to be paying attention. So,
last thing for you, I had to ask because I had to read up on you today. Not going to kid you here. Besides football and other ventures, the military, security, you also spent some time in the wine business. How was that? How'd that come together, and how was that?
That was awesome. That really got me an opportunity to work in an environment that was very uncomfortable for me, doing sales and,
right.
and logistics and everything behind it. But it's ultimately what landed me in Coach Drayton's office was his connection between Charles Woodson's Wine Intercept and a fellow who I worked for in the wine business that they had some communication with. So, using the right networking channels, it ended up providing me this opportunity to come here and coach with the staff.
Last point, what do your guys up front defensively need to do to give you guys the best chance to win this game Saturday?
Full domination, maximum violence.
Full domination, maximum violence. I had to mix in a cough there. I thought you were going to give me another 3-4 syllables. But no, that's a pretty good way of looking at it. It's pretty simple, and that's right to the point. Greg, I really appreciate it, man, and we'll certainly look forward to seeing you in Lexington. And it's kind of a long ride. Let's go up there and have a good reason to celebrate coming back.
I think we will. Thank you so much.
All right, Greg Dixon, one of or part of the coaching staff. He works with Roberto Panilla on the defensive line for the Citadel, which really has been a strength. And right here, we'll take a timeout on Beyond the Barracks, and we will come back. What else are we doing here? I got more guests. Well, I'll tell you what. Hang with us, and we'll tell you what we're doing next when we come back on the Citadel Bulldogs Radio Network. Monday night, and we're talking Citadel football at Over the Horizon Brewing at 2200 Harriet Street right here near downtown. It's right off I-26. If you're coming out of town on Rutledge, just take that left before you get on the interstate and turn right in here at 2200 Harriet Street. It's a great setting here. They've got really good food. They take really good care of us. They develop a ginger ale beverage with Coach's picture on it. How does it get any better than that? But our guest is Joe Jackson, who, ironically, we just spent a pregame segment with a couple of days ago, the cornerbacks coach with the Citadel. And, hey, it's good to have you here. And you guys come off of this. Well, it was a tough game for a lot of reasons, but as a cornerbacks coach, this is a tough opponent, too. They kind of screened and underneath you guys to death.
No, it was they're a very high-powered offense, and they move fast. I mean, we haven't seen a tempo like that, especially a team that can tempo you up and down the field while still putting the ball in the air. So it kind of makes you lock in a little more every play because is it run, pass, and then you got the RPO option that's tagged to just about everything now. So, yeah, it was a tough one and a hard loss to swallow.
And as Coach pointed out a few minutes ago, this is a team that if they get behind you, this guy's going to find them and they're going to beat you down the field. So you sort of have to pick your poison a little bit, but it also creates the need for really good open field tackling, which is something that didn't happen real early in the game, but you kind of caught up in that regard.
Yeah, they with a team like that, they put you in space.
Right.
And when they put you in space, it's like, all right, do I play short, do I play deep? And if I'm too deep, you're playing it short. And then they dink and dunk it down the field, and they make you tackle. They kind of make you trust your angles and play safe ball.
They did a really good job, I thought, with running all those screens. It seemed like every one of those where he would find his target out there, there'd be three blockers in front of him. And they were all on the same page, and that's tough. That kind of paved the way for a lot of 10- and 12-yard games.
Yeah, it's really just starts up front with those big guys because in order to run a screen, you need mobile O-linemen. And being, again, a tempo team, they run to the ball just about every time. So that's just part of their nature. It's their culture to kind of get out of the core and kind of stretch the field and make you pick your battle.
I'd like to get your thoughts on the group that you're working with. Bradley, Jaleel. Dom is a guy that was a corner but has moved to the nickel role, a role that you know pretty well. But Bradley in particular is a developing player. How beneficial are these more experienced guys in terms of helping guide younger guys like Bradley to get better? Bradley's been an impactful player this year.
Bradley is he's great, actually, great athlete. I mean, numbers across the board. He's going to measure top or even better against everybody. But having older guys like Jaleel, having Dom still on the back end, he may not be a corner, but he's still a DB for us in that nickel position. But they help slow the game down for our younger guys. They help teach what you kind of need to see and help you recognize the little things that you just only know from experience.
You've made several stops along the way. Gannon is one of them, Southeast Missouri, Presbyterian right up the road. What are your thoughts on the talent level and the competition level here in the Southern Conference?
The SoCon is very talented. Each year you got 3 teams making the playoffs.
Right.
And then coming from the OVC, I mean, that's a battle itself. Every week you're in a gauntlet, especially once you get in conference, you're in a gauntlet. And that's the same thing here. I mean, you can check the polls now, and there's 3 teams in the SoCon, I believe, that are ranked.
Right.
And we've played 2 of them already. So it's a tough week after week, especially once you get deep into conference play.
I spent a number of years in the Big South, and look, this is not disparaging anybody along the way. I think it's more a compliment or a prop to the SoCon than it is a slight to where I was in the Big South. But in the Big South, there were a couple of teams that were still finding their way, inevitably rebuilding this. It seems like with this SoCon, every single week, if you don't bring 60 minutes of your best, you're not going to win games much.
The SoCon puts points on the board. They each team can run the scoreboard up on you, and then on the backside, I mean, the best side, the defensive side, they make you bring out your best every week because they play hard-nosed football, they tackle well, they play fast, and they play very physical. So the SoCon is actually very tough ball on both sides of the ball and special teams as well.
it's a tough thing. So, confidence, I think, is one of the biggest intangibles in sports anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You got to believe before you can do, to whatever degree. And with that in mind, sometimes when you go through a rough patch, regardless of how you get there, if you drop 4 games in a row, 5 games in a row, it's tough to keep that confidence level up there. But this has seemingly been a pretty resilient group, and evidenced by the fact that a couple of times on the road even, you've fallen behind a couple of scores, 14-0. You could have been run out of the building in an instance like that, and a lot of teams would be. But instead, you guys in these cases have scrapped your way back into them, which would tell you 0 quit, and there, you got to hustle to the final whistle.
Yeah, we actually had a tough summer. And this summer, we kind of built that confidence. We got up early and we worked hard. We went out in the sun and we were out in the rain. And then jumping into the fall, we kind of stayed on track with that, just kind of keeping our foot on the pedal. And that's where the confidence has been. So in situations where we may have fallen a little bit, we kind of look back to what got us here. How hard we've worked, and the guys rallied behind each other. They've rallied behind our staff, Coach Drayton, and there's no quit in us.
Right. The difference in how you feel after the game, be it the whole next week preparation, the difference between winning and losing is a monumental difference. And when you've been on the winning side of that, I don't know how you don't just crave that so much. If you're going to go out there and give every ounce of everything you have to get that feeling, it's well worth it in the end.
Yeah, once we've got ours, and it's a different type of feeling.
Right.
And then getting so close in a lot of our games, our guys feel it. And our guys, that's why we come back every Tuesday or every Sunday, and we come back and fight because we want that feeling back. We know what it takes, and we've kind of just stubbed our toe in certain parts of the game where we kind of know it. We can look at it. We can pinpoint it. So, therefore, when the week comes back, we're ready to come back at it.
I probably use this line too much, but the one thing about all these close games is now it's not a matter, while every opponent's going to be good, everyone's going to be a challenge, you're really in that phase now where it's not as much who you're playing as it is how you're playing.
100%. Our goal for each week, one of our goals for each week, is to play mistake-free football.
Right.
Just to stay disciplined, stay on track, stay together, and trust the plan. Trust the game plan that we've hit on all week long. So on Saturday, when Saturday comes, it's more of a rinse and a repeat rather than trying to figure out what's going on.
So we've talked about the firsts of this being your first year in the SoCon. This is your first week preparing for the battle for the Silver Shako, the Citadel and VMI. This year it's up there, very unique rivalry, 2 schools that are a lot alike, and it means a lot to a lot of folks on both sides.
Yeah, just learning about this game. I already don't like anybody on our schedule, but I'm a Bulldog, and if my Bulldogs don't like them, then I hate them even more.
Right.
So I'm ready. I feel the fire that is walking through our halls, and just to kind of do any and everything is in my power to make sure we come home with that.
Well, I appreciate you coming over and hanging out with us. We just did this right before the VMI game, but it's great to have you out here, and obviously we look forward to a good game. By the way, that game is a 1:30 kickoff in Lexington, Virginia. The Dogs and VMI will be on the air with pregame coverage here on radio at 12:30, and we will bring you the battle for the Silver Shako. And the Dogs owe them one from last year and want to bring that trophy back. The trophy has a reserved seat on the bus, yeah?
It sure does. It's sitting right up front.
All right. Joe Jackson. Joe, thanks for coming up, man.
Thank you.
We'll bring Coach back up here on the other side of a timeout, and we'll set the scene for this coming game, one that he knows a whole lot about, both as a coach and a player, as the Dogs take on VMI this Saturday. We will take another timeout here. Back with more at Over the Horizon Brewing right after this on the Citadel Bulldogs Radio Network. And we are back with Beyond the Barracks, the final segment this week from Over the Horizon Brewing here at 2200 Harriet Street, right at the end of Rutledge, right before you get on I-26. I'm Brian Giffen with the head coach of the Citadel, Maurice Drayton, as we get ready now for the battle for the Silver Shako. As the Dogs head to Lexington, we'll leave Friday, get up there. That is a 1:30 game at VMI, and the level of rival speaks for itself. You've got great rivalries with other programs too, but this one's unique because of the commonalities between the two, but it also is a long-time thing, and there's a lot of pride at stake.
Absolutely. It is a unique rivalry. We are an institution, both of us, that lives by a code.
Right.
Cadets shall not lie, cheat, or steal, nor tolerate those that do. And we hold ourselves accountable with that. We live a military lifestyle. Our guys, they're friends who go to public institutions. You know, they're laying in the bed during the day. They got appliances and TVs and video games. We don't have that.
No,
we get up in the morning. Yeah, we're in barracks. Right? We march. We PT. It's a special lifestyle.
Right.
And so I have a lot of respect for VMI and the way that they live.
I know that we talked about it, a lot prior to the meeting last year, which they kind of got away with. They kind of came and took the lead with a minute or two left to go in the game and got out of here with the Silver Shako a year ago. But I know leading up to that game, you had a lot to say about your admiration for and respect for the job Danny Rocco does as a head coach.
Yeah, absolutely. Danny Rocco is a Hall of Fame coach in my book. This guy is special. He has won every place he has ever been. I've played against him. I've coached against him. He is a consummate professional. He does it the right way. And I can't say enough good things about him. He's a friend. We have a commonality in this coaching profession, coaching at military institutions. So you will never, ever hear me say anything bad about Danny Rocco. He's all right in my book.
One of the things I think that might have pushed them a little over the top against you guys a year ago is that, although very similar, you guys were probably, in key spots anyway, the much younger team in so many respects. And this year, at least at some key positions, it really is on the other side of the coin. One of the areas that quarterbacks, for instance, I'm perusing their roster today, and there's 5 of them on there, and the most experienced is a redshirt sophomore. Now, that doesn't always translate to how these guys play, but there's a lot of learning curve stuff that all those guys would still be going through to get accustomed to this level.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're playing 3 quarterbacks right now. They have a true freshman, and that's the guy I think we will face first. He's got 1 passing TD on the season. He's learning under fire. He's 41 for 76, 299 yards. Then they have a redshirt sophomore who's only played in 2 games. He played in William and Mary game, and he played in the Bucknell game. And then they have a redshirt freshman who has played in 4 games. I do say this fact all the time. If you have more than 1 quarterback, you don't have a quarterback. And that's where they are right now. To me, on paper, they are very similar to what we were last year. We didn't have a quarterback last year. It was Grayson Underwood. It was Varney. It was Dustin.
And,
he's trying to figure out who his quarterback is. And I hope he doesn't figure it out this Saturday.
Well, that's one of those where you really wait for one guy, their play tells you, to emerge, and the fact that they're playing 3 of them would tell you that they haven't yet had one guy step beyond the rest. When you look over it, scoring's been a tough thing for them, and that, I don't want to jinx it, I'm knocking on wood right here, but scoring's been a tough thing for them. The fact that they have struggled to win games, they are still looking for their first one of the year. A fast start, especially on the road, I would think would be a paramount thing you'd be looking for here.
It is paramount, but let me tell you, it doesn't matter. Even after that, this game is going to go down to the 4th quarter. It has always been a close game. There's very seldomly blowouts in the VMI versus Citadel game. I really wish we would play this game at the end of the year and turn it into like a bowl game, where we get both corps there. It's very reminiscent of Army and Navy. I think we could have a really, really, really good environment. That's going to be my push to the commissioner. if I get an opportunity.
Yeah, to be honest, I think that the same thing applies to some degree, and we'll talk a little bit more several weeks from now with Ed Conroy about it. It's a little bit similar, I think, with basketball when these two get together. Their core, I think, attends every Saturday game, and obviously at the home games we do the same thing here.
Yeah, we definitely, our core attends every home game. This is my challenge to our commandant. I am under the understanding that we are taking a bus up. But let's take 3 buses up. Let's take 4. Let's take 5. Let's bring as many people who want to come. You know, I don't want to force anybody to come, but I want to bring people who want to come to the game. Come to the game. Come out. Root on your Bulldogs. Root on those puppies who were trying to turn into Bulldogs so we can get our next win of the season.
You and I talked a little bit about this, and we'll go more on VMI here in a moment, but you and I talked a little bit about this before we went on, and we didn't get into it a whole lot, but Dustin played pretty well for you in last week's game. You made the point there's no controversy. You're really just broadening it out a little bit. But it's likely that we do see more snaps for him as the season winds on just because you want to give him a look and an opportunity. And it changes things up, too.
Absolutely. Once again, we're building a program, not a season. You will see Dustin in every contest going forward unless he's injured, unless something is going on that will not allow him to do that. But that is our plan because right now he's in the driver's seat for next season. Now, am I foregoing this season? Absolutely not. Would I play him if I thought it would be detrimental to a win? Absolutely not.
Well, watching him a year ago, you know, the amount of time that he got was so minimal before he got hurt. Unfortunately, I don't think, well, I know Lee and I didn't realize what a good athlete he is. I mean, when he broke those runs, and he broke a couple of them, that's a guy that's just as good a running quarterback as any as I've seen here that runs this kind of offense for you.
Absolutely. I tease him all the time, so this is what people don't know.
Big guy, too.
I was actually a quarterback.
Yeah.
And I patterned my game after Major Harris, Tony Rice. And so I'm in the meeting room and I'm talking to those guys about pitch keys and running on your heels and various things. And Dustin looked at me like, yeah, right, coach. So there's a clip, and we showed it to the team, the whole team on Sunday, where he didn't do something the way that we wanted to.
A teaching moment.
It was definitely a teaching moment. And he had a aha. So it was an aha moment for him, and it can't do anything but help him. So because of that, because he's getting game experience, we're going to continue to make that happen.
As you look at this game now, and you know we've talked both on and off air about some of the things they've done and maybe not done statistically, but you've already alluded to the fact that you throw the records out and all that stuff because of the level of rivalry that is. With that in mind, when you turn on the tape and you watch these guys, what are the key things you feel like you guys have to do to go up there and get the job done and bring the Shako home?
Very good question. I'm going to start with special teams. Everybody knows I'm a special teams guy. We have to do boring better. What is boring? Boring is you have 2 field goal opportunities and you have to make them, right? Regardless of where it is on the field. We have to make our 3-pointers. And then if we do that and we rely on techniques and fundamentals, the big plays will happen because schematically we feel very sound. Defensively, we have to stop their running back. He is the real deal. His name is Hunter Rice. I want everybody to know he wears jersey number 24. This guy is the real deal. He has played in every single game since his freshman year. In 2023, he finished second all SoCon. This guy is 4th in the country right now in rushing touchdowns. He is the engine that makes VMI offense go. All right, they get the ball to him in many different facets. They run Wildcat, where it's a direct snap to him. They'll throw screens to him. They'll, how about this? He is their second leading receiver as well, too. So we have to stop this guy from a defensive standpoint to have success. Last but not least, on offense, we have to finish drives, and we have to score in the red zone, whether it's 3 points or we get a touchdown.
Well, this game, too, I mean, Hunter Rice, for one, is one of the easy ones to remember from last year because he made several impactful plays in that game that they got out of here with the Shako. But I would think because of their youth at quarterback, it probably creates the desire and obviously the opportunity if you can generate pressure also. You have to contain 24, but you'd like to get whichever young quarterback is out there off his spot a little bit and get his feet moving.
Absolutely. One of the things I do, I study quarterbacks, and I study when they get pressure, which way do they move.
Right.
Every quarterback moves a certain way, right, left, or vertical, when they get pressure. So we're studying that on all three of the quarterbacks. It makes for long nights, but that's part of it. We will stay up all night long if it equates a win.
By the way, Rhett Russell was listening to the show, and he just sent a text, said, hey, man, you guys sound good. So Rhett's looking out for you out there in the listening audience, and he's looking out for us.
No, Rhett's a rock star.
Right. I go way back with Rhett. I mean, I covered him at Wofford and have known his family since he graduated high school. Are you listening, Rhett? I'm bragging on you, brother. But no, Rhett will be along for one of these shows here in a couple of weeks, too. Your director of football ops. He was a grad player a year ago and a guy who's carried over and is now on the other side of the court.
Absolutely. He was a grad player a year ago. He volunteered, meaning he came to work every day, did not get paid until a position opened up, and now he's full-time for us. Graduate of Wofford, got his MBA from the Citadel. So this guy, he's complete.
Well, we want to remind you that this game against VMI will be on radio at 1:30. Our pregame coverage begins at 12:30 as the Dogs take on the Keydets up in Lexington. You guys will have to leave pretty early Friday for this one.
Yes, we're going to leave at 8 a.m. 8 a.m. Friday morning.
I always try to mimic the travel schedule you guys have other than the bus part, at least during. So I guess I'm going to have to leave at 8 a.m. also.
Well, you got a head start. I know where you live.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know what, though? I mean, that's a beautiful part of the country up there. Yeah. When we were up there for basketball, they kind of put us in this old hotel called the Natural Bridge Hotel.
Oh, my goodness.
This was like an old haunted building.
Yes,
I felt like I was on the set of a horror flick or something. And I would guess, I haven't been that far to look at any itinerary, but as has typically been the case, the Citadel usually stays in Roanoke. Am I right?
Yes, we're going to stay in Roanoke. I don't know if I was supposed to tell that or not.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're staying in Roanoke, which is about an hour away from Lexington.
Yeah, that'll be a little bit of an early up that day on game day also. Well, Coach, thanks. Obviously, I'll look forward to visiting with you later in the week as we do that for our Ashley Furniture Home Store Stadium show. We'll do that a little later in the week, and that'll come your way on the pregame show on Saturday. Any last couple of keys for you that are things that aren't on script, things that intangibles maybe that you feel like would make the difference this week?
Excuse me.
No, that's all right. That's why I need to put mute switches in here.
I know.
Coach had to cough everything now.
Yeah, I had to cough. It's been a rough 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Under the weather, just trying to fight.
Right.
But this is what we do. We're Citadel men. We're Citadel women. We find a way to come out on top.
We're dogs.
We're dogs. We don't complain about it. We don't complain about the birth. Just show us the baby. So here we go. You talk about intangibles. The intangibles are this. We have to go into a hostile environment.
Right.
We have to weather the crowd. We have to weather the onslaught initially. Once we do that, settle in our game, run our game plan, and don't see VMI. Don't see red. Right? What we need to see is it's us versus us. Look in the mirror. You have to beat the man in the mirror. Because right now where our team is, it's about mindset.
Right.
So if you can win the mindset game, I think we'll be just fine. I want to share this too. This is a color rush game. VMI will be in all red. We're going to be in all blue.
Wow.
It's going to make for a festive environment. I can't wait.
We will describe it the best we can. That's one downside of radio, man, is you can't see it on radio, but we'll sure as heck describe it for you. Coach, thanks as always. And we will look forward to talking with you later in the week as we get set for this game. One more reminder, 1:30 kickoff on Saturday, 12:30 pregame. Thanks to everybody here, too, at Over the Horizon Brewing, as we do every Monday. Thanks to all of you who joined us on YouTube and on radio. And that'll do it for Coach Drayton and for Greg Dixon and for everybody else that joined us tonight. We really appreciate it. We will talk to you on Saturday, everybody. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.